With every choice we make, from the menu to the waiters tuxedos, to the tile floor, to the music, if I'm really intentional with every choice I make, I feel like I can transport you into my story. You, the customer, open that front door, and what I'm trying to accomplish is I want you to feel like Ray Liotta walking in the back of Copa in Goodfellas. The flambe just happens to be going in the background, and someone's popping a bottle of wine just as you walk in. Like, I had to set this whole thing in motion, and then you yell action at 5 o'clock, the doors open, and the movie starts.
Mario, great to see you, brother.
Mr. Carter, how are you,
How you
sir?
been, my man?
Fantastic. Better now that I see you.
Well, when I see you, I feel amazing because I know my hunger will be soothed soon.
I'm about to feed you.
You're going to feed me at some point. Let me ask you, if you could have dinner, if you could cook dinner for anyone in the world, because you've had everybody come through your restaurants cook for.
I've had everybody. The top of my list is my grandfather, who never really who was my biggest inspiration into doing this, and never really got to see me fulfill it in any way. He passed too early. So at the top of my list would be my grandfather. You got to throw Frank in there.
Your grandfather, was he the person who cooked in the house?
Yeah, every memory I have of him, he has an apron on.
My grandmother, the same thing.
He could be in the garage fixing his car, in the garden with his tomatoes, listening to Pavarotti. He got dressed, and part of getting dressed in the morning was putting an apron on. He was always in a state of cooking all day long.
Yeah, I always tell people that was my grandmother. She was perpetually cooking, preparing, freezing, getting something out of the deep freezer, frying chicken for tonight, shucking corn that's going to be for 3 nights from now, and picking beans that's for 2 nights. Like, it was just always
because the table's the center of the family.
Yeah.
That's the heartbeat, right? That's the fireplace of the house. If you're in charge of that, that's a huge responsibility on behalf of the family, right? So you're just constantly in a state of preparation, and it's your love language. It's what you're giving to the family.
You learned in the house. Did he teach you things? And
they were like my first babysitter, my grandfather, my grandmother. So I'd be in the kitchen with them because that's where they were. So as there's photos of me, 1 year old, basting the Thanksgiving turkey in my grandfather's arms. And I remember, they give you the peas to clean and the little jobs to help out. One, it's keeping you active as they babysit you for a couple hours till your mom or dad picks you up. But they didn't realize they were planting this seed at the same time, this love affair with food.
Then you went on to CIA, obviously,
Yep.
to Culinary Institute of America. So when you walk in, you've been cooking. How old were you when you first go there?
I started working in kitchens in the neighborhood.
Before you went to CIA?
Yeah, in the neighborhood, in Queens, after school and on weekends. And I think, having a love of food is one thing. I think a lot of people have a love of food. Falling in love with the industry is a whole nother thing. And those two need to meet along the way. Loving the chaos that is this kitchen and the misfits that are associated with it at all times, and falling in love with the pace of dinner service and the ticket machine and all that, that's really different than just loving food.
Sure.
When you have them both, you've got something. The third element is I wasn't a great student. So out of high school, as I was leaving high school, I sort of realized that proper scholastic route wasn't for me, and I needed to really follow this vocation, this trade, learn this thing, and I'll always be able to feed a family. I'll always have a job.
Your first restaurant opened 2010. I remember it very well, the original Teresi. At what moment did you and Rich realize what we have at Teresi is amazing? It was only 16 seats. We got to go bigger than this. We're going to go for something more.
I don't think the ambition was greater than making a name for ourselves in New York. As two native New Yorkers wanting to create something in New York with our chosen path and craft, the biggest I think we could have seen the ambition was make it in New York. We described it to each other as a rocket ship. This is a 16-seat, 400-square-foot rocket ship. We said it from pre-day one.
Creating a restaurant, a big part of it is literally the bites of food I put in my mouth. Mm-hmm. But then another part of it is, how do I feel when I'm here, right? Because ultimately, I just like how I feel when I'm in one of you guys' places. Like, it makes me feel like I belong there, like I'm gonna get great food, makes my conversation, my friends better, the music. I can't really hear it, but it's in the background, it's perfect. You've always been a master of that and kind of that idea of kind of building a world around the chicken parm. Is that something you always thought about doing from day one and wanted to do?
I don't think so. I don't think I knew that that was my intention until really, I think Carbone, when we were sort of putting back this old school place, but we were young people. So, and in that neighborhood of Carbone, you had some of the stalwarts of this style, Il Molinos of the world, that are right there. So what I wanted to do was make this moment transportive. You, the customer, open that front door, and what I'm trying to accomplish is I want you to feel like Ray Liotta walking in the back of Copa in Goodfellas. It's that steady cam scene, 2 minutes, the Ronettes, then he kissed me. I've got to keep that up for 6 hours. I've got 250 people tonight that I need to try with every selection I make to get that a little bit of moment where you feel that you're the one opening the door. With every choice we make, from the menu to the waiters tuxedos to the tile floor to the music, if I'm really intentional with every choice I make, I feel like I can transport you into my stories. Where like the flambe just happens to be going in the background and someone's popping a bottle of wine just as you walk in. Like, I had to set this whole thing in motion, and then you yell action at 5 o'clock, the doors open, and the movie starts.
Yeah, of course. And do you enjoy that part of it?
It's my favorite.
I was going to say, you seem to enjoy that.
It's my favorite. You're setting this whole thing in motion, and the food is just one part of it. We take great pride in that storytelling, that theatrical thing. I think theater's the closest comp to restaurants. It's an identical time every single day. It's the same cast. They're dressed in the same thing. We're doing this period piece, and it's a different group of an audience every night.
I never thought about that. You're right.
And at 5:30, the bald captain's going to tell the same flambe joke to a different table every night, you know?
Exactly.
And we're going to serve the same thing. So it's theater. You have to enjoy that about it. It's a repetition thing, and you have to love that as well.
Major Food Group now has almost 50 places. Was there a moment when you realized, oh shit, I came into this to do a restaurant and be a chef, and I figured this chef thing out. I can do the kitchen thing, but now I got to be a fucking businessman, entrepreneur. Yeah. Was there a moment?
That was a very difficult early set of challenges for us. The beauty of us facing it, one, we were facing it together, and two, we knew so little. We were so ignorant on how to run this business. We only knew how to cook, that I think it actually worked in our favor, because had we known how hard it was, maybe we would have chosen a different path to go about this.
Funny you say that. I saw the CEO of NVIDIA, he said the same thing. He said, if I knew how hard it would have been, I wouldn't have started. So It's interesting you said that. If you weren't so naive.
So hard.
But you were naive, you had no idea.
We had no idea, but through how difficult it was and the fact that there wasn't anyone else to really ask questions for, we taught ourselves through the roadblocks, through every difficult challenge, every lease agreement and negotiation and mistakes, tons of mistakes made along the way. We began to learn what it was to run this business. The expectation of you running this business, it's not okay to say, I don't know. There's no one else to ask. Buck stops with you. Figure it out. You asked for this. Are the things that you're telling yourself, you know? You're coaching yourself through really tough moments.
I've always told people Carbone, New York has a feel that just doesn't exist anywhere else I've ever been. What was was Carbone Vegas the first thing outside of New York?
The first thing outside of New York was actually Carbone, Hong Kong.
Carbone, Hong Kong. Then Carbone, Vegas?
Yep.
Opening a Carbone in Vegas is a way different idea than opening one in New York, where you can get these old buildings. Now you're in a new hotel with a space. Were you nervous at all? Like, how am I gonna get that same feel in this much bigger space, not on a street in Tribeca or Soho, where it's much easier to kind of create that just from the walk in? Was that nerve-wracking a bit?
Terrifying. It's terrifying. As soon as you're big enough to not be able to see it all and touch it all anymore, everything changes. I touched everything for years. And then as we decided, okay, this is going to be an entrepreneurial company. We're gonna grow. Cue Jeff, right? The next most important person in my life. We're gonna collectively build this thing, and it's gonna be bigger than we can possibly manage. How do we go about doing that? You have to understand that there's human error involved, and make peace with. There's going to be things that happen every night that had you touched them, it would have been different. But as a whole, we're trying to imbue a cultural understanding, a buy-in, that people that work for us understand how we want to go about doing this. And you have to make each brand and each identity really potent, so that if I'm not in Las Vegas tonight and you walk in there and you have a meal at Carbone, you never saw me, you didn't talk to me, you had dinner and you left with an understanding of what we were trying to do there. You got it, you get it.
I truly believe, I've thought about this, the hardest business to scale is great restaurants. Like any business, you're dealing with all these things you don't have control with from day one. Meaning if I walk into Carbone or Teresi, a lot of my experience is based on how fresh the tomatoes you bought that day, or how great the cut of steak was you have. You can cook it excellently, but it wasn't a great cut. So how do you guys go about maintaining that level of provision, service, quality of food, dedication to making sure the dishes are good now that you've scaled many, many different labels around the globe now?
It is hard to imagine a business with more variables than this one. I don't know a lot of other industries, but the number of variables, from human variabilities to the product to the locations, is crazy. And scaling restaurants is a daunting task.
It seems impossible to me.
It often feels that way to me too. We can be, and we are, really diligent about creating structure for exactly what you're saying. That Bronzino that you have in Las Vegas tonight is the identical one that we're serving in Miami, because I've set that up to be exactly the same, and I've found the exact purveyor from that fish in Spain that I want, and it's delivered to all my locations. And I can be manic about as many of those topics as possible. We have a training team that travels, and there's one person sort of per discipline, a head waiter, a head chef, a wine person that'll go and they'll train. We can set all of that up, and we have. But if you don't have buy-in from people, when you're not looking, they're not going to do what you want them to do. It has to be cultural buy-in. They have to want to do it right. So it starts there. It starts and stops there. Are they here for the right reasons? Do they want to work in this restaurant for the right reasons? Do they want to actually do the right thing? With all the training and the best ingredients, you can still screw it up.
Sure.
And a customer is only going to give you so many chances. How many times are you going to go to a place? You could have heard the best things possible about that restaurant.
Sure.
You go there and have a not so great experience. When do you go back? Maybe never. And even if you're a regular, you have a bad experience. How many of those bad experiences are you going to have before you're like, that place lost?
It's lost.
It's not the same.
It's not the same. If I go to one of your places anywhere and have an experience I don't like, do you like getting those phone calls? Do you want people to go, hey, Mauro, just so you know, I was at Carbone, Hong Kong, or I was at whatever, Sadel's in Miami, and it didn't hit how I know, what I walked in knowing I should get from Major Food Group wasn't there. Do you like getting those?
It's critical that I get them, especially from people like you that know exactly what it should be. It doesn't mean it's not hard to take. It's still always hard to take. After all these years, you have this ownership of that thing that says, I messed up. Like, it's on me. And when I get a review that's not great of something, whether it's from someone I know or, the team will read all of the online reviews, Yelp and what have you. Like, it's important that we see what's out there, what people are saying, and sift through that. There's valuable information there. Doesn't mean it's not hard to read. It hurts your pride to take the criticism always. And I don't think that's ever going to go away. And I don't think it should. I think if it goes away, then you've lost that sensation as to why you did this whole thing. So I think it should hurt. It hurts the pride to hear, but it's so important to hear.
Obviously, I love going to your restaurants, but you've also now taken that food, what I eat, how I feel, and now you're doing with Our Lady of Rocco. What's your vision there, and how does that play into everything else that you're doing with the restaurants and everything you're doing?
As I was going through building these restaurants and learning more and more about, and working with designers on the uniforms and working on playlists and building out these universes, these worlds, I found another real passion. The last piece of the puzzle, the only piece of the puzzle that I haven't actually touched in this movie is the customer, because I have no control over that.
For sure.
And I don't like not having control over that. So I wondered aloud, is there even a small way to slightly control that, especially with the menswear? So I thought, if you're a fan of what we do, if you're a fan of what I do, if I made something that fit perfectly in the dining room, maybe I can complete the circle.
I'm all for, people being casual, but I believe there's certain times and places for everything to be casual, whether it's casual with your language or casual with your dress. Menswear, to me, for whatever reason, has taken a step back and down. I'm like, I see people sometimes at dinner in like athleisure clothes. My dad and the way I am would never, that's just ridiculous to me. To see people out at dinner at athleisure drives me insane.
Well, you and I are old souls, I think, in that way. And I often think of my father, he'd give you the old, you gonna leave the house like that?
Yeah, that's
where are you going? And I think this day and age, particularly with men, they equate what they've spent on the garment to it being elevated for all occasions.
Yep.
And I think now that you can spend thousands of dollars on sweats, that those have become this sort of okay thing to wear in all occasions. And for me, it's just an effort thing. I appreciate when I look into the dining room and I see that for this night out, you've chosen Carbone, thank you, or one of the restaurants, and you've made an effort to complete the night out. Invariably, your girl has. She spent a good amount of effort getting ready tonight, and you put that on?
Yes,
exactly. What's going on here?
My dad definitely will say, who's going to serve you dressed like that? You must be going to your friend's house?
Yeah.
You must be going to someone's house or something. When you look at, obviously you guys have now, so you started, Teresi opened in 2010?
Yep.
So you're coming up on the 15-year anniversary soon. What's the next 10, or what is next for Major Food Group, Rich, Mario, and Jeff?
I think it's a question that's never asked of my industry, because we as a community, as an industry, live almost day to day of fear of this thing ending. The lifespan of a restaurant is really, really short. So the fact that we even get a chance now to look at 10 years ahead is an absolute blessing. I mean, it's incredible that we can even have that discussion, because it's something that's not given to anybody in our industry. So we're incredibly lucky, and I think that for us, the next 10 years hopefully looks like an exploration of what hospitality can mean to us. I think of course it will mean the restaurant business, and that's at our core, and I think that'll always be at our core. But I think we're really interested in the word hospitality and how that can manifest itself, whether it's hotels or residences, consumer packaged goods. How can I affect hospitality? Where do we think it needs our attention? What can we affect? How can we take our storytelling and put it towards sort of laterally looking at the business as a whole? As long as we're accepting challenges that excite us, that nervous enthusiasm should equal great work. We are excited to do this. We're going to put effort into it. As long as we keep making those choices, no matter what those choices might be for the next 10 years, 15 years, if they give us those excited butterflies, then that should equal effort.
And I know you guys do everything very diligently, and you'll crush it. Thank you, brother.
Thank you,
Appreciate you. You're a true maverick.
Thank you for being family.
Thanks, Mario.